When you think of California, you probably imagine sunny beaches, Hollywood glamour, and endless adventure. But what if I told you that there are some spots in the Golden State that you might want to avoid? Yup, not everywhere in California is a dream vacation. Whether it's overcrowded tourist traps, safety concerns, or just places that don't live up to the hype, there are a few destinations that could leave you disappointed. In today's video, I'm going to reveal the places you should probably skip on your next trip to California. Welcome back to Explore the World, the channel where we help you discover the best and sometimes the not so great places to visit around the globe. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss out on our latest travel tips and destination guides. Now, don't get me wrong, California has some incredible places to visit, but not every spot is as amazing as it seems online or in guidebooks. Whether you're planning your next vacation or you live here and want to avoid a wasted trip, it's important to know which places might not live up to the hype, or worse, could cause more trouble than they're worth. From overcrowded tourist traps to spots that just aren't worth the time, I'm going to help you steer clear of some disappointments. So, have you ever visited a place that didn't live up to your expectations? Drop a comment and let me know. I'd love to hear your story. Now, you might be wondering, how did I come up with this list of places to avoid? Well, it's not just random. I looked at a few important factors that travelers often care about. First, there's safety. Some areas unfortunately have high crime rates, and we all want to stay safe when we travel. Next, I considered overcrowding and tourist traps. You know, those spots that sound amazing but end up being way too packed or overpriced. I also took into account environmental risks, like places that face regular wildfires or extreme weather. And lastly, some locations just turned out to be a bit of a letdown due to a lack of attractions or being overrated. Of course, this list is a little subjective. It's based on reviews, research, and even some of my own experiences. So, if you've had a different experience, feel free to share it in the comments. Alright, let's get into the list. Here are the places in California that you might want to think twice about before adding them to your travel itinerary. First up is Compton. While Compton has made progress over the years, it still has a reputation for having a high crime rate compared to other parts of California. For tourists unfamiliar with the area, it's best to be cautious, especially if safety is a top priority on your trip. If you're looking for a more relaxed experience in the Los Angeles area, there are safer and more tourist-friendly spots nearby. Now, some visitors are drawn to Compton because of its historical significance in hip-hop culture, but I'd recommend doing a guided tour if you're really interested. Next, we have the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Now, this might surprise some of you because it's one of California's most famous attractions. But here's the thing, when you actually get there, it's overcrowded with tourists, aggressive street performers, and vendors trying to sell you overpriced souvenirs. It's also not as glamorous as it looks in pictures. Many visitors leave feeling underwhelmed and say it's not worth the hype. Sure, it's fun to spot a few famous stars on the sidewalk, but be prepared for a hectic and sometimes disappointing experience. Another area to avoid is Skid Row in downtown Los Angeles. Unfortunately, Skid Row is known for its large homeless population and high levels of poverty. It's not a place where tourists typically feel comfortable walking around, and there are definitely safety concerns here. If you're exploring downtown LA, steer clear of this part of the city. While some people visit Skid Row for volunteer work or charity, it's not a place most tourists should explore on their own. Death Valley is one of the most unique natural landscapes in California, but here's why you should think twice before visiting in the summer. The temperatures can reach a scorching 120 degrees Fahrenheit or even higher. It's dangerously hot, and unless you're really prepared for extreme desert conditions, you could find yourself in serious trouble. Many visitors underestimate just how harsh it is. Now, if you're really set on visiting, try to go in the cooler months, like late fall or early spring, when you can enjoy the beauty without the risk of heat stroke. Bakersfield is another city that doesn't live up to the California dream. It's known more for its oil and agriculture industries, and while that's interesting, there's not much here for tourists. Visitors often describe it as boring, with few attractions, and it tends to get extremely hot in the summer. If you're traveling through the state, there are far more exciting places to check out. That said, if you're a fan of country music, Bakersfield does have a rich history in the genre, but even then, most visitors find it's not worth a long stay. Finally, let's talk about the Salton Sea. At first glance, this massive lake in the desert looks like an interesting spot to explore, but the reality is pretty disappointing. The water quality is poor, and over the years, the area has been plagued by dead fish, bad smells, and environmental issues. It's not the ideal place for a day at the beach, and visitors often leave with more regrets than memories. There are some people who find the history of the Salton Sea fascinating, but unless you're really into that kind of thing, it's probably better to skip this stop. So, those are some of the places in California that might not be worth visiting, whether it's due to safety concerns, overcrowding, or just being overhyped. But remember, everyone's travel experience is different. If you've had a great time at any of these spots, feel free to share your story in the comments. Alright, before we wrap things up, I've got a few honorable mentions for you. These places didn't quite make my top list, but they're still spots you might want to think about skipping, depending on what kind of traveler you are. First up is Venice Beach. Now, Venice is a famous destination, but here's the thing. It can be super crowded, and there's been an increase in homelessness in the area, which can make some visitors feel uncomfortable. The boardwalk is full of street performers and vendors, which some people love, but others find it chaotic and not very relaxing. If you're into quirky and energetic scenes, it might be for you, but if you're looking for a peaceful beach day, this might not be the best choice. Next, we've got Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco. This is another place that's very popular with tourists, but it's also known as a bit of a tourist trap. You'll find overpriced restaurants and souvenirs, and the crowds can be overwhelming. That said, if you're visiting San Francisco for the first time, it's not a total miss. You might still enjoy the sea lions and some of the views. Just don't expect an authentic local experience. Another place that tends to get mixed reviews is the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose. The house is famous for its bizarre architecture and ghost stories, but some visitors feel it's a bit overhyped and overpriced for what you actually get to see. If you're into spooky stories and unique history, it could be worth a visit, but if you're not into paying a steep fee for a guided tour, you might want to skip it. Finally, let's talk about Rodeo Drive. Yes, this is the shopping street of the stars, but unless you're planning to drop serious cash on designer brands, you might feel out of place here. Many visitors just end up window shopping, and while it's fun for some, others find it kind of dull if you're not into luxury shopping. If you're in the area, sure, it's worth a stroll, but I wouldn't go out of my way just to see it. So, while these places didn't make my top list of spots to avoid, they definitely have mixed reviews. Whether or not you enjoy them depends on your travel style, so just keep that in mind when you're planning your trip. So, those are the places in California that you might want to skip if you're planning a trip. While the state has plenty to offer, some locations just don't live up to expectations, whether it's due to overcrowding, safety concerns, or simply being overhyped. But travel is personal. If you've had different experiences with any of these spots, or if you have your own list of places to avoid, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and click the bell so you never miss any of our travel tips and guides. Also, make sure to check out my other videos for the best tips on where to visit and hidden gems you don't want to miss. See you next time and happy travels!